Well, here we are. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome to the Markcast. Reed here. You get a very rare Reed in a beanie. Just got done running and haven't had time to hop in the shower yet. Running around here today, working, everything else. The Professor Andrew Murray is heading home right now. He'll be hopping on here in a minute. So, give me some comments here while we wait for the professor to join. Big news. Excited here to kind of talk through everything this week and coming up. Big time guest interview coming up this weekend. I want to fill you guys in that. So, like and subscribe. Let me get the banner going here. Got to make sure we get that. We'll go through UFL Week 6 TV ratings today. We'll talk attendance. We'll talk gameplay. Big guest coming up this week. I just got done recording about an hour and a half ago. Todd Murko. He was the former team president and CEO of the Los Angeles Avengers back in the Arena Football League. He's a longtime sports media consultant, talking ticket sales, advertising, revenue, all of that. He is going to be joining a really long, wide-ranging, about an hour-long deep dive interview we just got done with. That'll be coming up this Friday. Getting Todd's thoughts on everything, kind of, fixing the UFL. I know we get a lot of criticism on here. Okay, you guys are too negative to the UFL, and we need more tangible solutions. Todd's great. We talk, the dangers of team relocating. Todd knows all about that through the Arena Football League, attendance versus TV revenue. What's more important that way? We talk through, how did the arena leagues approach local media, and how should the new UFL be approaching kind of the new wave media and all of that with podcasting and everything. So really, really long, wide-ranging interview on that. So I hope you guys enjoy. Like I said, like and subscribe if you want to be a part of that. Trying to get up to 3,500 subscribers here. Give away 2 free tickets to the XFL, or excuse me, the UFL. I keep doing that. UFL championship game here coming up. You can sit with the Professor Andrew Murray. We'll be doing all of that. Also, a longtime friend of the program, Kevin Kugler, also joining the show this week. So I sat down with Kevin, a lot of business talk with Todd, talking a lot of business talk. And then we're talking football with Kevin Kugler. We're talking, Fox's views, what direction, what narrative has Fox given kind of their broadcast crews in terms of how to cover the games this year? What does Kevin think of the teams? We preview the big Battlehawks, Stallions game coming up this weekend, which is probably the highlight game. I think Saturday afternoon for that one. I have to work, so I'll have to watch that on demand. But big interview this week. I know there's a lot of CFL news as well coming up with the Chad Kellys of it all and training camp and all of that. Probably no CFL stuff this week. Was trying to get Jamie Nye on, but my work schedule, this is about the last time I'll be able to podcast until Friday morning when I post the episode. So that will be what we have this week. And then we're getting into CFL, but we've had back-to-back conferences and everything going on. So Tom Murko coming up this Friday, and then Kevin Kluger on that. So I hope you guys enjoy. Yeah, Abdul, that'll be a good interview. Can't wait. So I hope you guys enjoy all of that stuff. Like I said, Andrew Murray called me about an hour ago, said he is flying home from work, and we'll be getting him on soon. We can talk through TV ratings and all that. I want to get your guys' thoughts on all of this stuff. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Let's get, and I forgot to get my water bottle. I wish I would have grabbed my water bottle before. We'll get Andy on here, and then we'll bring everything on. But TV ratings this week via Mike Mitchell on here, a really, really strong viewership, I think, for the UFL this week. We had the Birmingham game on Saturday, ABC, 956,000. Houston, St. Louis on Fox, 829,000. And then on Sunday, Arlington, Michigan, Fox, 929. And then the DC San Antonio game on Fox, cracking over 1 million viewers. And then Mike had some more context on here. The 4 UFL windows averaged 983,500, not 5,500 viewers in week 6. Saturday's game peaked at 976,000 viewers from 4:15 to 4:30 p.m. Really, really strong viewership there. Curious your guys' thoughts on all that. I know this coming weekend, there's going to be, I think, 3 ESPN games and then an ABC game. 3 ESPN and then a Fox game. The Fox game with the Birmingham Stallions. Battlehawks, that'll be going on at 1 Pacific. Will that be 4 Eastern? Getting into prime time on that. Give us some of your ratings predictions as well. This early Michigan DC game, 9 a.m. on ESPN. It could be a little rough on here. And let's see here. Abdul says, best week since opening week in terms of ratings. I agree with that. I agree. I think this was very strong. And I mean, this is kind of the midpoint of the season, right? I'm always impressed on this when it's one thing you come out of the gate the first couple weeks, especially going into the playoffs, kind of peaking. But to maintain viewership here, week 6, I know it's all good time slots, right? Good times, good networks, and I think that carries a lot more of it than is it the Panthers drawing more? Is it the Battlehawks? I mean, you see on here even San Antonio, DC outdrawing the St. Louis game. I know Houston kind of pulls them down on that, but I definitely think that I always attribute it more to the TV networks and time slots than the actual the matchups on that. Todd also has really interesting insights as well. The interview coming up this week about what is important in terms of local TV viewership. Should the UFL think about moving to other markets in terms of do we want to get New York in there? Do we want to get the West Coast in there? Lots of thoughts about that. Yeah, Mike, I agree. But ESPN's done well. I mean, ESPN's done high 7s, right? Low 8s. I don't think that ESPN's been a total drop off. I think Fox and ABC, clearly ABC's always done a really good job. This Sunday afternoon Fox one really impressed me as well. And I think, as Mike pointed out on in our group chat, the St. Louis game on Fox going up against the Kentucky Derby pre-show as well. So I think that's something to take in mind in here. Jacob, yeah, these are really good ratings for the midpoint of the season. I agree. I think you have to be happy as anything on this point. I think, especially compared to last year. I know Mike had, it was either on this tweet or another one, up 42% over the year before. Maybe I'll pull up Mike's other tweet when we get that going on here. Question from Jacob: do you think the Houston Arlington has the policy to go below Memphis levels with both teams out of the playoffs? Houston's play being atrocious. I think we could see a disaster next week. You mean in terms of attendance on that? The Houston. Well, so Arlington's playing Memphis at home, and then Houston is going to be hosting the Brahmas. It's tough. I know we've talked a lot of the Roughnecks of it all. I know we talked last week about the Roughnecks as well with who was even the guest last week on here. My mind is gone, but the loss of kind of the Houston market. Oh yeah, the Mike Mitchell midseason check-in. That's what we did. Yeah. The Roughnecks of it all is really rough, no pun intended. And I don't know. I think the league might have done demonstrable damage with that. Let's see. The Mariners keeping in the home run. That's good. Up 2-0 against the Twins. Got an eye on here in the background. Foosball fan, maybe you should push back and see another week or two. Week 10, the playoffs are clean. I know people really like the post Super Bowl kickoff. They really like the February, keeping people in, the kind of the routine they have. Football, Saturday, Sunday. I think especially if you could bring this schedule they've had this year with the 2 Saturday games, the 2 Sunday games, do that, get people in the routine, especially with the Sunday routine, coming off the Super Bowl next year. I think that is a good recipe for success. Some of the XFL things they tried last year with the FX games, and I think there was the Friday night game and the Monday night game and all of that. It's too hard. People want to watch what's easy to find, what's on at the bar. I know even when it comes time to watching, Kraken games here, and they've got whole wild sale changes where we're going to be doing we're watching all of those games, but you got to be able to tell the bar, hey, I'm at the bar. Hey, turn the game on NBC, or, not in this case, but with the Kraken here, turn the game on ABC, turn the game on Fox. I think there's a base number of TVs that are always going to be on these networks. And so it's, to me, that's going to carry the day. Let's see here. Jenna talking in. Good evening from Southern California. Jenna, appreciate you checking in. Pipper, no food. They will start earlier, if anything. I agree. I think this year was a point of necessity with the merger and the 2-month lead up to all of that. I think next year they will definitely be wanting to look into February, as I think Mike Mitchell pointed out as well this week. Given if this was the XFL schedule, with the UFL teams, would be able to be signing players at this point. And we've had a lot of questions like, why isn't Jake Bates signed with the NFL team? It's all with the UFL and the UFL contract and all of that. Lemon V cuts ratings look better than the XFL and USFL. They are up significantly, combining resources, and like I said, just prioritizing TV viewership on that, or TV time slots on that, being able to give people, the ABC, Fox, mom, dad, and uncle, anyone's going to be able to find all that. Questions about the Arlington Renegades. Win, lose, or tie, I'm an Arlington Renegades fan until I die. You guys will be very interested to hear Todd's thoughts. I asked him about, relocating these teams. And Todd kind of poo-pooed if you would have any sort of allegiance to any of these teams, and saying that we need to prioritize moving these teams into markets that support them. So I think we should have some fire this week coming up. Should we move the Michigan Panthers? Should we move the Memphis Showboats? Get them to markets that will appreciate them. Very interesting on that. But yeah, to go back to the question with the Houston of it all, I think it's rough. I think we're going to, there's certainly a divide. You always get that in these spring football seasons, just in terms of, you get these teams that are out of it. We see this in the CFL as well. And we see these, it's Friday night, 0-13 Red Blacks against the Elks or whatever, and try to get the ratings up. But, they do the best they can. I think overall this year, I don't know. I think I'd be really happy with the TV. Attendance is another matter. Like I said, we'll get to that with the Todd Marco interview coming up this week. Chad Johnson here. I can see Battlehawks Stallions game easily getting over 1 million viewers. Basically, every UFL fan will be watching regardless if there's a fan of the other 6 teams. I will be really curious. I would like to see this draw, well over 1 million. I have been a proponent that I think the networks carry more than the matchups. This is the matchup of matchups. It's not quite prime time, right? At 1 o'clock, so 4 Eastern here on Saturday. But it's about as marquee of a matchup as you could have right now for the UFL. So I definitely agree with that. They are Pip here. They're doing similar to what the XFL did on network TV last year. Well, the XFL matched the USFL last year in terms of ratings, even on lesser networks. So, certainly not surprised there. Let's see here. Yeah. Luckily, Arlington got home games out of the way before it got bad. Memphis home is going to be harsh. Memphis, market to watch here. I thought that they were doing strong viewership last year, attendance-wise, and I don't know. Maybe they were papering a lot of those seats. I know Max was saying they were giving them away at Best Buys and things like that, trying to get the, get a gift card and get a ticket to the Memphis Showboats game. Jacob, have you seen the debacle of the Israeli Football League? Makes me really put these things in perspective with the UFL compared to the rest of American spring football. Yes. And again, Todd coming up this week. We touch on that as well. Todd, former president and COO of the Los Angeles Avengers. Todd, not tons of thoughts, but kind of the 30,000 foot view of the UFL of the AFL, and saying, I don't know if always these executives think that it's going to be. I think they think it's going to be a lot easier than it's going to be. And I think you always get surprised, just the difficulty and the manpower and the marketing that goes into it. And foosball here. UFL has done a lot right. They have. I'll be curious to see when we get into the offseason here what they choose to do in terms of marketing and seasonal employees. I again talked a lot with Todd about that, this really is a 12-month a year endeavor, kind of marketing for these spring leagues. You can't just exist kind of December to June or whatever this is going to be with training camp and the delay of all of this stuff. But I don't know. We'll see. I think that the UFL wants to keep costs low. I think we're going to see a lot of seasonal layoffs at the end of the season. Not necessarily what I want to see. Let's flip over to attendance here. And like I said, Andy, we'll be getting on here soon. I think we'll be good here for a few more minutes, but I would like to get my water at some point. So hopefully Andy gets on here soon. In terms of attendance numbers this week, Memphis still struggling here, 5,600. Michigan, a tick up over their last home game, which was about 6,900 and change, 7,400 for that. St. Louis back up over, I think it was 31 and change last weekend or whatever the last home game was for that. They're almost 33,000 there. And then DC, I don't know. DC didn't look like 14,000, but that is what the official attendance is. I know we've seen some people criticize, hey, is this legitimate attendance or anything like that? But that's the official word coming out of me. I don't blame Mike for that. That's if the league is coming out with that, but I don't know. That was a sparse looking 1,400 beer snake section, if you have to ask me. But anyway, curious guys, give me your thoughts on that. Give me your thoughts on the attendance here. Like I said, we'll read a couple more comments and then we'll get to some gameplay here in a little bit. Memphis looked like 300. That is the biggest stadium in the history of mankind. It's really big. It's really tough. It's almost as bad as Ford Field, but at least Ford Field, they can kind of dim the lights in the upstairs there. You go in there to the Liberty, whatever it is, and it is massive on that. Abdul, do you think the 5,600 represents how many people bought season tickets before the season started? No, I do not think so. I think that it's the number of tickets distributed, right? So they might be giving some of those away. I don't think that's always butts in the seats. I think that that's tickets distributed. I will say there are some strange promotions coming up this week in terms of, I think the Stallions are giving away a like a nice hoodie with a ticket. And I think the Renegades are giving away like a hat and sunglasses. At some point, we talk a lot with Todd about this. You can't, you don't, you want to give value for the ticket, right? But at some point, you got like, here, take a $70 sweatshirt, come to the game. Like, okay, all right. It's at some point, you gotta put the priority on the actual football stuff. Yeah, Abdul. Better than spatulas. I don't know. I might use a spatula over the Renegades. I don't know. The sunglasses I think they were handing out. Is that a custom? Is that a custom item we have going on there? Pip here. Are you coming around? You're relocating one team where they feel like they have a strong market to go to. They feel like should give everybody one more year. Like I said, I'll be really curious to get your guys' thoughts on Todd's interview on Friday. Todd says burn it all, man. Fox come together at the end of the season, throw it up on the wall. What's working, what's not. Okay, St. Louis is good, DC is good. Let's go to other places that are going to draw more. I know some stadium deals are still in place. I'll be curious now moving into next season with, like the Birmingham of it all with Protective. Like, do we move out of that stadium now that lease is up? We'll be curious with that because, Birmingham was kind of locked into that for a while, and will be interesting to see. Andy here, yes. And tickets distributed goes back to the old USFL, pretty standard there. I agree. I think it's one of those like WWE gets into this a lot, and I know the AEW got into trouble with that as well with the Wimbledon stadium and them having the highest attended whatever, and it was actually tickets distributed and not turnstile turns or whatever, and that was that was a whole mess with that. No, I don't think anyone can get more fireworky than this. But this is constructive. This is a think tank. The episode's going to be fixing the UFL, a blueprint to success, something like that. But no, this is going to be a lot of tangible things. A lot of this is good. Everyone that's been mad at us, poo-pooing and everything else, this is going to be very excited. I think you guys will very much enjoy that. Sam here. This is a good point. As a season ticket holder, it's getting a little annoying. All these other markets getting season ticket deals. I agree. But it happens a lot. If you're LA Dodgers fan and you're paying top dollar to watch Ohtani, and then the Marlins are giving away, I think it's like $2 to buy a ticket right now for the Miami Marlins. Like, it is what it is. You got to pay for a premium. Seattle, we pay a lot. Kraken tickets are at a premium. We'll be curious to see what happens with that now that the team fired their head coach and aren't necessarily in playoff contention after this last season. But, it is what it is. I think you can only control your market. I understand why you might be upset, but you have to take that as a point of pride, right? Like if you're a Boston Bruins fan, your tickets have been some of the most expensive in the NHL forever. And you can't look at like, well, the San Jose Sharks and they're papering their stadium and we're paying full, like, you take that as a point of pride. Your team's great. Yeah, you're paying for a better, exactly. Football, you're paying for a better experience in St. Louis. Yeah, you got to wear it as a point of pride there. And I think that's just one of those things that it is what it is. I know the AAF didn't finish the season. Where do you rank them against the other spring football leagues? I was so AAF agnostic. I was so into the XFL, and that's what got us into all this podcast stuff. I mean, I wasn't podcasting back in 2018. I was listening to Alan and Brian and Chalk Talk and Mark Perry and writing into the shows and stuff. But it was kind of like the WCW, WWE. I was a diehard WWE guy. I didn't really live through the WCW, lived through the war, but was very, very pro WWE on that. So I didn't know that. And then James here, I give the underperforming markets one more year. If nothing else improves, and start flirting with other markets for year 3. I know, but James, is there going to be a year 3, right? I mean, Mike's talked about this. I think next year is guaranteed at this point. I know they had the Nick Novak specialist showcase coming out and talking about, in a anticipation of the 2025 season. I said, well, there you go. Confirmation it's coming back next year. I mean, obviously that's a little bit of sarcasm. That's easy to walk back here, but I don't know. I think you need to make your best effort possible. And I don't know. Came around. Todd's interviewed it a lot, get me coming around on that. Start relocating teams. Why would people in the towns are moving to care? They know the league is going to bust. I know. It's a double-edged sword. I think I take both. I take both sides of that. And I think that I see both. I see the pros and cons of both of those. Abdul on here. Julio with the catch. There we go. Over under 16,000 for Birmingham's attendance. God, I hope they get 16. I hope they get 16 against AJ McCarron. I don't know. What do you guys think? The league's doing a lot. We're really promoting like AJ McCarron's return. And I think the league has done a really good job of that. I saw some custom graphics they put out today when I was running. I don't know. I think they've done a really good job. I think the league, I mean, this is probably the championship game preview if we're all being serious, and the AJ McCarrons of it all. Then flip it around and let's say we do it in St. Louis for the championship game. I like the storytelling of that. I think that's really compelling. Do you guys think they've done a good job? What do you guys think? I would think 16 is a minimum for that. What they do 12-5 the last time they were in Birmingham was it below that? It was like the Storm Watch and all of that. Birmingham, they're hitting about 12-14. If they can't hit 16 for this, then they're going to be in trouble. Mike G, taking nothing from DC. They're brilliant fans. Threat of rain kept it lower, but 14,000 is wonderful. Like I said, it looks sparse to me. The beer snake section. I know that they had a thing out now where they're like limiting. You have to be sitting in the beer snake section to be able to contribute. Like, I'm kind of tired of all this. It's a lot of just the beer snake all the time. And we have the graphic now and all that. I appreciate it. I mean, I don't have a team anymore. I appreciate the cause a lot and I appreciate the beer snake stuff, but it gets a little tiresome sometimes when that's like the one note of like, hey, did you know the DC Defenders have the beer snake? Jacob here, 12,000 for Birmingham. They got a gas station opening up. I mean, it's always another gas station. There's always something on here. It's absolutely incredible. Birmingham cannot catch a break. With anything. Yeah, Pip, they need to pivot now, not wait. Keep money. Keep wasting time and money. I think that is in regards to the relocations on that. So, and then Pip, Birmingham is basically giving away free tickets and hoodies if it doesn't draw. Really interesting, not to keep plugging the interview here with Todd, but really interesting talk about sales and like knowing your customers. And I said, I don't blame the UFL season ticket people, the people that work the teams. I think the league doesn't necessarily have a strategy for that. I think they're sitting there like, we got to get more people in here. Give it out. I don't know if like Corey is sitting there with Birmingham, like we got to give away sweatshirts. I mean, maybe that's the case. I just think the league is kind of directionless right now on that. And I think, as you guys said before, like St. Louis isn't doing that. I mean, it's not like they're giving out sweatshirts for every franchise. I mean, they're only giving ones away to the ones that are struggling. I know I said if you're a Boston Bruins fan or whatever, wear that with pride, but I don't know. I mean, maybe they should do that for all that. Why isn't it a buy one, get one for all these different teams? Something interesting there to keep in mind. Let's see here. 11 feet. I imagine the amount of money the beer stand is making at the PC Stadium is a lot. I agree. A lot of beer there. A lot of beer. A lot of recycling as well. Very green. Very green at Audie's Field for that. Any other comments on that? Let's get to some games, and then we'll get Andy on here. I really would have thought traffic would have been. It's good. Hopefully we're doing okay though. Hopefully you guys are sitting tight. We're decent viewership here. I'm tap dancing along here on the live stream here. Chad, we'll be interested to see how many Battlehawk fans travel for this game. I agree. Is that something you come out and do? I would like to see that. I would like to think that the Battlehawk fans are traveling for that. It's a Saturday, leave Friday night, leave Saturday morning, get in there, spend the weekend. It's not like it's a Sunday night kind of thing. I could see that. And then this was another one as well. I like when the broadcasters act like the beer snake is the most novel thing in sports. I agree. It's like, especially when, the reports were out from Mike Mitchell that like XFL ownership last year didn't even know what a beer snake was. And they're like, wait, what is this? Like, what does DC do? And that's how we got the whole lemon throwing and all of that stuff. AJ in town should be the main event. I think two for $1 hot dogs at Koigos will be overshadowed. Greg, you're here talking. This will be perfect weather here in Birmingham. My son from London will be in attendance. He's a Stallions fan from 1983. Just like you say. Well, Gregory, I will say, I was watching the Birmingham Memphis game Saturday, which we'll get to here in a second. Is the Buckham signs, is that culture? Is that politically correct? Like I keep watching that. I was like, fuck them showboats. I'm like, I know what you're trying to say. I don't know. That to me, I don't know if that's a politically correct here. Any chance they open up the other side and protect him? I don't think so, but we will see. It's going to be really big. Yeah, we'll see here. Anthony Miller. Is this Dr. Anthony Miller? I will campaign for San Diego and Oakland getting UFL to the very end. I like San Diego Showboats and Oakland Panthers. Yeah, I don't think you could do worse than Michigan at this point. Oh, here we go. Football binge stuck at Target with the fam. Can't wait to watch. Here, Mariners up 2-0. Hancock pitching the good one so far. Well, you got two guys on here, so I'm a little, we'll see. We had a kind of a collapse last night as well. All around hustle. I think we missed a perfect merger with the AAF and the XFL. I think in a different world, I don't know if that was the perfect merger. I think Fox coming together and working with the original XFL back in, when the reprieve happened with The Rock and Danny, I think that was probably the perfect. I don't know the damage that was done with the USFL hub, and then that being, kind of saturating that market, and then now the moving into the other hubs with the USFL, like that to me was more damage than anything else. The AAF had all sorts of money issues and, ownership stuff, the whole like running out of payroll and getting all that stuff. I don't know. I think the ideal thing was Fox working with the XFL and getting that back on. Basically what we have now without the last 2.5 years in between. And I think some of the damage that's been done on some of these markets, I think would not have been done the same how we got to have done that. Let me get the the UFL games up on here. We can start talking about some of the scores and stuff. Exciting weekend. I watched a lot of the Birmingham Stallions Memphis Showboats game on here. I'll tell you, you guys, what do you think? I mean, Stallions, do they go undefeated at this point? Oh my God, oh my gosh, the Twins just hit a 3-run home run here. Oh my gosh, football binge is going crazy here. 4-2, man. It's the second I turn away. Let me get this up on here and we will talk through. Yes, I don't like that. Stallion's going to buck the Markcast. That seems a little seems a little a curse there. Seems a little curse. I don't know. To me, Stallions team of destiny at this point, undefeated again, going into the Showboats. Memphis really had nothing to show for itself here. Really, I know they got some points back at the end. I don't know. To me, putting up 22 in the second quarter here. I don't know. Do you guys think I know foosball here is talking the Stallions taking an L this week. I don't know, man. That's going to be a really tough game. It's going to be a really tough game. I want you guys to put your predictions in the chat here. What do you think? Are you taking the Stallions? Are you taking the Battlehawks? And is this going to be the game of the weekend? I certainly think so. Mike G here. Battlehawks need a fight song, not Sweet Caroline. I like Sweet Caroline. I think Sweet Caroline's fine. Dorothy hates Neil Diamond. My wife hates Neil Diamond. I like Neil Diamond. I covered Neil Diamond when he came to Bakersfield. I need Birmingham to lose to St. Louis, and then St. Louis to play Michigan in the championship game. I don't think Michigan's in any contention to get to the championship game. I think that they're second in the USFL conference here, but that's tough. I don't know. I think it's the yeah, I'm getting the thing up here. I think it's the Stallions world here, and we're just living it. Yeah, Panthers sitting at 4-2 on here. Lemon v Cuts. I predict the Hawks will win overtime, 31-34. That would be exciting. See a UFL overtime. Have we had a UFL proper overtime this year? I can't remember on that. My brain is shot today. I've been filming conferences for the last week and a half. We got foosball member on here. If you just became a new member, appreciate that as we give up another hit here for the Mariners game. Let's see how much damage we can do here in the third. Andy Murray standing by here. We'll get him on as I tap dance around here. Foosball, appreciate you being a member here. If you remember, if you want to support the channel, it's 99 cents a month. Hop on, pay for some of this nonsense and everything else. Andy driving through traffic, everything else. Let's bring in Andy. I am like I forgot to grab my water bottle, and then I've been tap dancing here. I'm glad you've made it on. Andy, did you ever think that when you were driving through traffic trying to get home from work, we should just cut out the music from the USFL games and just upload them to YouTube? And then wouldn't even need to do the show. We could just upload, and then you could come home from work, and I wouldn't have to be dying of thirst here tap dancing. I think we should do that. I think that would be the better situation. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, no, actually, I think we should just go ahead and tape them from a camera and set it up in our living room and just show us watching the games. I think that would be more, productive for everybody involved here. But I'm good here. Thank you for being so patient, and to everyone for being so patient. So, I probably missed quite a few things.
It's okay. It's okay. Here we go. Evan Williams checking in here. Best part of my day, where I had to spend 3 of them driving 1,600 miles. Andy, we announced, and we won't get into all this. We'll get your general thoughts. I've been talking a lot of attendance, a lot of ratings, and we're getting into Birmingham here. Special guest coming up this week. I've teased it on Twitter. Todd Mirko, former Arena Football League president and COO of the Los Angeles Avengers. Wide-ranging hour talking through all of this craziness, everything that you would want a former string football league exec to kind of talk through about fixing the new UFL. So it should be exciting. And then Kevin Kugler as well. Are you excited for that? Face of the UFL, Professor Andrew Murray.
Always. I still have that nickname. I haven't been removed of that title yet. It's still in my possession.
I think so. I think until I don't know who would fight you for it. I don't know who would be a more disturbing face of the UFL.
I mean, disturbing in what way?
Well, who said disturbing? No, I think someone would have to fight you for it. I mean, who would be more deserving than you?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, deserving.
Deserving. I think it's a disturbing. No,
who would be?
I would say, I don't know. Maybe Skipper. Who knows? Maybe Skipper can fight me for it.
Andy, what are your thoughts here? Well, we don't need to do too dive down on attendance TV ratings. I got through a lot of that stuff. We'll talk through we'll talk through the gameplay here, but general thoughts, kind of the weekend, anything you want to get into before we do that?
I mean, for the most part, the attendance numbers don't surprise me. Obviously, Memphis continues to be a rehab project, which I'm sure you alluded to quite a bit already. That something's going to be done about that market, or has to be done about that market. This is a disturbing trend. If we are going to use the word disturbing correctly, this is a disturbing trend in the evolution of the lack thereof of the attendance numbers for Memphis. I mean, Michigan seems to be the same. DC is fine. I do think it's funny how people tried to sort of create different narratives for why something doesn't look like there's 10,000 people in the stands and why there does. Everyone wants to have sort of their own judgment takes, but look, the numbers are the numbers. There they are in plain view. And for me, it clearly states that there are 2 teams that are pulling their weight and the other 6 are not. And to see decreasing numbers for a franchise that, again, on numerous occasions has been alluded to as being one of the best in terms of attracting an individual owner, like Mike Mitchell has alluded to, the fact that this has not really come to fruition in terms of attendance or numbers or enthusiasm for the franchise is really a detriment to a franchise like the Showboats. And I just don't know what their in-season fix really is. I don't know if they really have one. This is something they have to do in the offseason, or they have to think long and hard about how they attack in the offseason, because this isn't getting fixed this season.
Yeah, well, and like I said, Todd in his interview coming up basically said, I'd pull any team that isn't working. I would come in and I know that obviously there's stadium leases and all of that, but I would say, we gotta put the resources where it's going to be, which, I mean, if you're a Houston Roughnecks fan or a Houston Gambler, whatever, like, that's tough to hear, right? I mean, I know Arlington and all of that. It's, I don't disagree. I'm kind of torn on that. I think that you can only, and you see here with the UFL, I think we're really seeing the weight of a legacy XFL and then just existing there for a little bit longer. I don't know. I will never get over the damage that this Birmingham. We'll see the attendance this weekend with Birmingham, but I'll never get over the damage that was done with the Birmingham hub.
Well, I mean, this is the first time we've really reached the relocation quandary in the modern era of spring football. We have not had this idea of moving a team yet, because either the league itself failed in terms of finances like the AAF, or B, world health epidemics stopping your league, or the case with the USFL where, yes, they moved Tampa Bay to Memphis, but that wasn't really a move now, was it? It was just an identity. It was a brand, but they don't really have an example of this happening yet. And so I don't know what relocation would look like in terms of, are you going to alienate people that would have bought in but now won't because you don't have a team in their area? There's sort of a cost benefit analysis that needs to be assessed here if they're going to be able to move a team. I am not outwardly in the idea of moving a team immediately if it's not working. I got to see more work being put in, because I don't think it's really being put in a lot of places. I do think that St. Louis and DC have benefited from just having kind of that built-in home base, but everybody else doesn't really have that. And so you have to decide, do you want that? As far as, are you going to work on it, or are you just planning to treat everybody the same and just continue to just flatline in terms of actually advertising a team? Like, you can't just go into each market and expect things to just happen and grow. You have to do the groundwork for it to happen. And I'd argue that it was probably the same case with St. Louis. This is probably going to anger some people. I bet you St. Louis would probably be in the same boat if that work wasn't done, if this approach was given to that franchise. I know everybody is upset about the Rams leaving and everybody wants to support the Battlehawks, and that's great. I cannot understate how much work was being done by the XFL 2020 to make those home markets work. And I'm just not seeing that here.
Yeah, a couple comments here. I don't want to do too much because I did a lot of tap dancing around attendance and all that stuff. Gemini here, a member. Again, be a member, 99 cents a month. Make me feel good about that. USFL markets ever made to fill seats. It's probably going to take a couple years if they invest in advertising. Rookie here, maybe they didn't have time to advertise the league so they can do it better next season. I agree with that. More time in the offseason. The problem is they're not going to have any offseason employees. The season's going to end. They're going to have seasonal layoffs. And I think we're going to be in the same boat next year. I think you have to keep people on staff all year to do this. And maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe, I know they did it last year with the XFL and all of that, but we'll see. I would be pleasantly surprised with that. And then we have we have this whole, again, USFL never lost 60 million. We don't know how much the USFL lost because it's not transparent with their fans, because Fox never said. Fox wrote off a tremendous amount of money with their other markets, their other departments in Fox. That's why you don't have a number about that. The XFL was a startup business that had startup business costs. The USFL allocated extra time from other Fox employees to help build a football league, save for the coaching and the players. A lot of the other staff, social, marketing, all that stuff, they were all Fox people that were running, NBC, whatever, Fox on, NFL on Fox, and then doing USFL social media on the side. So that's why it's not apples to apples. It's never been apples to apples, and that you kind of don't really sound like you know what you're talking about when you do talk about that kind of stuff, because they that's why the USFL adopted the XFL business model. Right, because the XFL lost so much money and it was such a failure of a product. Andy, do you have anything about TV ratings really good on here? I ran through kind of all this stuff up year over year over last year, and then really good here week 6 on here. I just want to make sure you get your thoughts on this as well.
I mean, that's an excellent number for DC and San Antonio. I'm just going to say that's incredible, honestly. I cannot believe they achieved a number like that. I had to double check, but I don't believe there was anything in direct competition with it at that time. I can't remember what the time slot was on that as far as other competition. I mean, obviously you had the Kentucky Derby this weekend and you had NBA playoff games. Although Saturday there was only one game. It was just the Nuggets T-Wolves game 1. That was the only one. And then there were game 7s and then game 1s on Sunday. I mean, this is really good. Again, it's the fact that it's on network TV, I think, helps boost it, of course. And because of that, there's this continued interest in it. But again, where do we start to push those numbers up? And do those numbers get pushed up if it's earlier in the year? But I mean, compared to both the XFL and the USFL last 2 years, yes, these are obviously much better numbers year over year. But again, can you maintain that interest? Can you maintain that idea? Is it active? And again, is it active viewership versus passive viewership? But I would argue that it's still better in terms of just getting the number of eyeballs on it as opposed to the last 2 years.
My last comment on this, and this is just the pessimist in me, we'll get to the games. I just don't know how much of this is any, and I know this year we had the truncated offseason. I just don't know how much of it this year was we're just on better networks versus like anything else. And I think that it's probably 90% like we're just on better time slots and networks. And I'll be curious what that looks like next year because like you said, that if that flatlines, there's still good ratings to get in the million. It's nothing to see, but like if that continues next year, then it's the other things you need to do. Like if this is your one, it's kind of like when Apple it brought in the new silicon, right? Like, hey, like we got a huge jump here, right? Well, we got the 40% year over year because we're not on FS1 and we're on ABC instead. You're not going to see that same growth next year, especially if you're not going to do, kind of any other marketing on that. Let's get into, I was talking Birmingham and all of this. I watched a lot of this game, Coach Flip freaking out on the sidelines. Taylor's old his time on this. Birmingham steamrolling here. What are your thoughts on this game? And then I was kind of tap dance this, so then we can move on here. But any thoughts on this?
It is absolutely frightening that Adrian Martinez is throwing the way he is. I've never seen him throw a football like this before, not in college, certainly. And for him to come out and start making deep sideline passes, over the shoulder, back shoulder throws, I mean, his passing has become, in this league at least, at an elite level. Like, it's become an asset for not only him, but their team in general. They don't have to run the ball, but they can if they want to. Birmingham is averaging almost 100 yards more than the next team per game. Like, they can do whatever they want on offense. And Adrian Martinez is the lightning rod. You absolutely cannot go back to Matt Corral. Like, you have to continue playing Adrian Martinez. And the fact that he can do it both on the ground and in the air, that's just terrifying. It absolutely is terrifying for the rest of the league. This Birmingham team is a juggernaut. They essentially, in my opinion, have won the USFL conference, because I know there's games to be played, but come on, there's nothing that compares to this talent wise. There's no team in this conference that is even close to the stratosphere of Birmingham. Now, how they measure up against XFL competition, we're still figuring it out. We will find out this weekend, but this is it's a tremendous asset, and it just goes to show how I'm really starting to sort of think about Skip Holtz in a different light now. He is becoming the Joe Gibbs of this league. He is able to take quarterbacks. Doesn't matter what their background is. Doesn't matter where they played. Doesn't matter where they are in terms of their mechanics. He gets every single one of them to work, and he gets them to produce at the best that they've ever produced at. And it's truly remarkable that he's gotten this from Jamar Smith, Alex Magoo, and now Adrian Martinez. I mean, he is boosting these guys into the NFL, and it's truly a testament to him, the coaching staff, the talent acquisition. But this offense, I mean, they're a serious juggernaut.
Is it enough to call Skip Holtz a spring football legend?
A legend? I mean, that's such a relative term, but I
don't think it is. I think it's an easily thrown around term.
I'm gonna go ahead and say, I'm actually gonna go ahead and say yes.
Yeah,
I know it's a joke. It's a total joke term for a lot of guys in this league. Let's be real. But him, back-to-back champions. If you win 3 in a row, I mean this team has lost 3 games in 3 years. I mean, they just figure out ways to win. And I know they played a lot of home games, obviously, and that standard. But I think they play better on the road than they do at home. Like, a lot of times their offense looks a lot better away from home, in some ways. So, I mean, at least the last 2 weeks it has, Houston and now in Memphis. So for me, it's not a problem whether or not they play at home. They'll take anyone out into the woodshed.
Yeah, I know it's like I saw the UFL tweet, and like we're approaching the calendar year where it's like since the Birmingham Stallions have lost, which isn't that, when you only play, I mean, but it's amazing, but like, it's like, okay, well, they haven't, I mean, the season ended in April last year. Like, it's not like they've been, it's like when they talk about, the NFL, like this team's been undefeated for whatever. It's like, okay, well, you count the off season, you're doing all that stuff, but no, this is pretty cool. Last point on this, and I want to do the other games. I mean, this is the test, because if they slack the Battlehawks, I said I would, give them the trophy now. I mean, I don't see anybody. I don't see the Brahmas. I don't see anyone, like you said, in the USFL. I don't see anyone that can match them at this point.
I think the Battlehawks really are the team that they can really meet their match with. But The Battlehawks technically don't have to win this game in Birmingham. Would they love to? Absolutely. Bragging rights? Absolutely. I mean, if all goes well for St. Louis, you're going to play a de facto home game in the championship game. So you have a chance at revenge, but still, I would say they're the odds-on favorite if they take care of business this weekend. Like that's going to be a fact. This is really just an amazing accomplishment by this team.
Let's just look here because I remember last week, like we did this, and then it was all like it wasn't updated yet. It's because we did it on Sunday. But just looking at this, and I know the Renegades are 0-6, but I mean the 2-1-5. I don't know. Is there that big of a drop off? Or is it just me? I know we got criticized last week this drop off between the XFL and the USFL, but I mean to have the 2-1-5 teams, at least the defenders are 500, and then you got I don't know. What do you make of this when you have both conferences here kind of updated?
I mean, Arlington's lost their games to the USFL teams, plain and simple. But man, they've had just the worst kind of luck. I mean, you give up 2 game-winning field goals, you give up a late lead to DC. You seemingly seem to have it in the bag against Michigan, and then you give up a long kickoff return. I mean, their special teams have been atrocious. Their special teams have been horrible. Their defense is just getting absolutely scorched left and right. I feel so bad for Luis Perez. I mean, I think he's actually probably playing statistically. He's probably playing his best season ever, and it just doesn't matter. Like this team just absolutely does not have any unit outside of the offense, and it's absolutely crippling their entire operation. I mean, and that's the thing. Like, I can't see them being a better team because they're not. They're the worst team for a reason. But I still think their singular unit is better than probably both units on either the Roughnecks or the Showboats. But it doesn't matter when you don't win games. So that's the fact of the matter. They lost games. They're 0-6. They're there for a reason. They're in the basement.
Do we give Lindsey Scott more at this point? Like, do you just to try anything? I mean, I know you're saying Luis Perez, and we love Luis. I mean, we just to throw something against the wall.
But you could, but I don't think that's really that's going to solve the entire problem that's here. Again, it's defensive inconsistencies and it's their special teams. It's not. I mean, Taylor Russolino, who was regarded as a very good kicker in this league, got released after the DC game. I mean, or it might have been actually the Houston game, but he got released midseason. I mean, that's the thing. I just think there's just so much going on turmoil-wise behind the scenes with Arlington. I don't know exactly what, but it clearly has factored into them just being a completely listless operation. I don't think just switching out quarterbacks for the sake of it is going to really work. Now, I mean, it would be funny if a team traded for Luis Perez midseason again, like how Arlington traded for him, but I don't think that's going to happen unless the Panthers lose another quarterback. But it seems like teams are just signing quarterbacks and trying something new as opposed to trying to trade for someone this time. So I just don't really think sitting him down is really going to do any good. I let him ride out the season. Maybe the last game or two, maybe you put in Scott for extended time just for practice. But I don't see them benching Perez just yet.
I don't know. It seems like Bob Stoops is a little droopy here at this point. Thoughts here. Let's move on here. Battlehawks taking care of business. Good showing, right? 32,000, almost 33,000 there. I think official attendance on this. Roughnecks are ass. Excuse my language. They're like, it's terrible for this franchise. I was talking about this before you came on. I mean, it's terrible to move them and then the rebrand and then it couldn't have worked out any worse.
Yeah, no, the artists formerly known as the Roughnecks are just that. And they don't have an offense to speak of. Mark Thompson is not going to save them. And I don't know if he's going to be around much longer to try and save them. I don't know what's going on with him. Very cryptic tweets sent after this performance, which allude to a lot of things. For St. Louis, I mean, again, the story more for me is that St. Louis just continues to keep playing with their food, and they don't really seem to want to put teams away very early, which they absolutely should be. But I mean, you're talking about a one-possession game here in the fourth quarter. It started to get really dicey. Their offense kind of runs dry, and you're thinking, oh, no, is there going to be a upset in the Battle Dome? And then, AJ McCarron comes through like he does. Hakeem Butler has a great game. I hope Butler's a little bit more conscious with his body and not just trying to toss it like a rag doll on the sideline because they need him. They absolutely need him. I know they have a great receiver arsenal, but he's definitely the top dog. I mean, he's the leading receiver in the UFL. And absolutely cannot imagine them not having him in the offense. So for St. Louis, obviously, of course, they have to play a better game against Birmingham next week. But the fact that they kind of just keep playing around with teams, they have so much potential to be an absolutely flattening force like Birmingham is, but they just don't seem to have the consistency to do it yet.
Well, they better this weekend. I mean, you're not gonna have. I mean, Birmingham is gonna run ruckshot on you. I mean, they got to be ready to go. And I know Beck's gonna have them ready because this is a big game, man. We talked about this. We just hit a pitcher. I can't stand this Mariners team, Andy. I'm sorry. They better be ready to go. I mean, this is going to be the biggest test. I don't see any other test. I mean, we can talk Birmingham home field, whatever. Any of that stuff. But yeah, this is the biggest game of the weekend. You agree?
I mean, it's the biggest game of the season. Let's be real. Yeah. Not just the weekend, the entire year.
Anything else on this? Anything else on the Battlehawks, Roughnecks here? We can move on. Any other comments on this? We have a question here. Who gets fired first, Bob Stoops or Curtis Johnson?
Oh, man. I mean, if Curtis Johnson figures out that you have to score more than a point in the first half, maybe he'll survive. But Bob Stoops, I think, is just more going to be a courtesy of I think he's just going to walk away because of the pay cuts and not wanting to deal with this anymore. Yeah. Curtis, I mean, again, what's the authority of trying to edge him out of the job? I don't know what goes on behind the scenes in terms of when they decide that these guys need to move on, like a Todd Haley or a Jeff Fisher, where it's kind of, or a Kevin Sublin, where they just decide, maybe we shouldn't have you around anymore. I mean, maybe Curtis will be politely ushered out the door, perhaps by the end of the season. It's not working, and they can't have this in the attempts to try and draw people into the Houston market.
Question: is there a trade deadline in the UFL? I think it's just like I mean, is there a hard? I don't know if there's a hard. When they traded Luis last year, week 6,
they traded him in week 6. I don't really know if there's much of a deadline per se. I have to
get Max on the rule book. I mean, I think it's just kind of like we're kind of done here. It's like I read today, like the Marlins traded one of their star players. Like we're done. Like it's a fifth of the way through the season. We're done. Yeah. Like we're moving. Real quick here, and this will be a longer conversation, but later I want to hit these last two. We'll probably go about 5 minutes over here just because I had so much tap dancing here. So USFL coaches are in a different, right? Because they're on the different salary between Wade Phillips, Bob Stoops, Becht, and then Barlow. Who sticks around next year with the pay cut?
I mean, if I'm someone like, I'm amazed that Skip Holtz hasn't requested a pay raise.
Yeah,
so I can't believe he stayed around this long. To be quite honest, I thought he might have bolted last year. Barlow might stay. I don't think Wade Phillips stays. I think that staff is moving on. There's too much effort for a little payoff. Becht is such a coin toss. I don't know if he stays. I think he loves this, but I don't know if he necessarily would stay if he still feels there's constant instability. But he also knows he got the best gig in the entire league. So it's kind of like, well, what's the next gig, and is it better than this? And I don't know what his end goal is, if he wants to be an assistant coach in the NFL or what his next prospect is. But as far as what he's getting out of this league, I mean, this is top billing for him. That's the best thing that he's ever going to get.
He told us when we saw him at the combine that the ultimate goal would be if every player on his team made it to an NFL roster. Maybe that includes Becht. He's like, we're gone. That's tough because I see him. He's bought in, but I see him having bigger goals. I agree with you. I think Wade's done after this year. I think Stoops is done after this year, and I think Barlow is a coin flip. I really do. I think that I would put more on Becht than I would on Barlow, but I think that Stoops and Phillips are gone in a heartbeat. Anyone, let me know in the comments if you disagree, but that's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so much that they can get out of this. And again, with the pay cuts, it's just harder to keep those people around. You want to pay them? Great. Awesome. I think then they'll gladly take that. But if not, then it really has to just be purely for the love of it. And, there's plenty of coaches who are like that, but I just don't know if it's going to resonate with them.
All right, let's get here. Last two here. We'll get out of here. Renegades here, Panthers. Because the Mariner game had started. I was sitting there in the kitchen. I had both games on. I was eating lunch, and Jake Bates missed that kick. and they threw the flag, and I said, "This is the Grey Cup. This is the 13th man." And I could not believe it. I literally was like screaming at my laptop. 12 men, 12 men on defense. Jake Bates got to kick again. I know he had missed earlier in the game, but he finally missed. Renegades had it. I mean, this was a very compelling game, I thought, with kind of the downfall of the Arlington Renegades.
I just wonder if they're watching the tape of their mistakes because they keep making the same ones every
Nope.
week, and they keep making more catastrophic errors with every pressing week. It's unbelievable, really. It really is that they continue to just make these catastrophic errors every single week. And I mean, look, good on Michigan. They hung in there. Etling did enough. They obviously ran the ball pretty effectively against this Arlington front, which is just continuing to get worn down. Jake Bates is a superstar. Everybody wants to sign him, even though UFL won't allow it. But this is the thing. I just, for Arlington, I don't know really what more they can do besides players. It's really just, I think it just comes down to coaching. I'm just going to be honest with you. I think it really does come down to coaching, and it's kind of failed this team this year. Like, it's not been nearly as crisp as it was last year. I don't know what was lost in translation. If the players are not receiving the same message, I don't know what's going on here, but whatever magic sauce they had to win the XFL championship game last year is completely gone. The cupboards are dry.
Yeah, this is tough. Bates, like I said, had kind of rough on that. I don't know. I mean, did the Panthers impress you in this, or was it more just the Arlington kind of the downfall? Because I mean, they're second in the conference, right? I mean, 4-2.
I mean, you got to give credit to Michigan for surviving. I mean, they're plucky. I'll say that they play well in close games. Arlington does not play well in close games. I give them that much credit, but I am worried about their defense because Frank Gins is out for the season now, and I just don't know if they're going to have the same tenacity on that side of the ball, which was kind of their calling card. Offensively, I mean, they're all over the place depending on the health of EJ Perry and whoever's under center. Like, they have to just continue to keep running the ball and making sure that they keep possession away from the other team. But Jake Bates is their secret weapon. He really is. You can't keep winning by field goals against teams like Birmingham, who's going to score touchdowns, but against other teams that don't have their, figured out, like, they're just going to continue to win games. And again, that's a good strategy from Mike Nolan in terms of knowing what his identity is, it being a team that plays really good defense and has exceptional special teams. Maybe not a whole lot on offense, but I still see them as just second fiddle to Birmingham.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that it'd be like, what was it? The USFL, was it last year when it was like the Mauler in the champ? Was it the right championship game, like the Maulers versus the Stallions?
The Maulers, yeah, it was Maulers and Stallions, and Maulers beat the Panthers to get in.
Yeah, but you're like, this is not like, this is not even going to be competitive at this point. Yeah, Ginda out. Yeah, Chris is sad and is out. All right, and then let's get here. We're almost at the hour mark. Let's get here. DC keeping it alive. San Antonio, this one was close, low scoring for a long time. I was kind of surprised watching this one after the whole 12th man and all that kind of stuff. Defenders back to 500. Brahmas still number one number two in the conference above DC. But what did you kind of? I don't know. Is DC getting things back together?
They still make too many uncharacteristic errors. I don't think their running game has really come along the way they wanted it to. It's just not the same. It doesn't have the same punch to it. As far as what they were up against, I mean, the Brahmas, who had a solid offense, just could not figure anything out. I mean, Dormady, to have less than 100 passing yards on 28 attempts is kind of baffling, honestly, but they just could get nothing downfield. There was a pass that he had to Jontre Kirkland that was short of the goal line, and Kirkland ended up dropping, but it just showed, it was kind of emblematic of their day where just Dormady just couldn't get it out there. He ended up getting hurt at the end of the game. I don't know what his status is, but he didn't appear on the IR list, so I presume he's okay. Real shame for San Antonio because they wasted an exceptional game from John Lovett. Just absolutely fantastic game from him, but they just never really could string enough offensive drives together. And for DC, I mean, you got to really like some of the weapons that they have, even without someone like a Lucky Jackson this year. I really think that they've managed to do enough. I'm not crazy about them. Jordan Tamu, I think, is where he's at in terms of his development is kind of where he's going to be. I don't think he's really going to push past what he is right now. This is who he is. He's the perfect spring league quarterback. He might make some mistakes, but he also makes some good throws. I think this is kind of where DC is. I think they're a 500 team. I mean, that's really what they are the rest of the season. Is that going to be enough for them to get into the playoffs? Well, it really depends on what happens with the Brahmas. This was a season season saving win for the Defenders, but they are not out of the woods yet. It really depends on what happens with the Brahmas.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like DC doesn't have the same spark this year. I mean, the Brahmas. I guess I shouldn't be too sad here as a Brahmas fan with them 4-2, but I mean, the got to upset the Battlehawks. I don't know. It just feels like some of these teams, the Renegades downfall, Defenders have. I don't know. I thought this merger was supposed to get some of these teams better here, and it's sad to see a couple of these teams kind of losing step here. And just Defenders were really fun to watch last year, and they were a really compelling team. And I know they won again at home, and that's great. But even that losing to the Battlehawks was kind of like, okay, we lost that streak, like that stinks. Just kind of, I don't know, not super excited for them.
No, they just don't have the juice this year. They really don't. Even on defense, I'm not really crazy about what they've been doing. And I mean, it was showcased against the Battlehawks. They got absolutely trounced at home. Good for them to get another win at home and maybe reestablish another winning streak. But it's just they're not as dominating at home, even with these close wins, as they were in the past.
Yeah, they had that animation, and it was like they had the old Dragons logo. I'm like, then you got to put the Trogdor logo on there. It wasn't they didn't beat the Dragons last year. They beat the Sea Dragons. I thought that was funny they did that. But again, like Andy, we were earlier on here before you got on, like the novelty that is the beer snake has worn off. IMO. I in my opinion at least.
I am not in that camp. I still love the beer snake, and I always will love the beer snake. I'm not over that. I always love watching that, and I love the atmosphere in DC. I think the energy is still really good, even if the team's not that good. So I won't share that opinion with you. Sorry, I'm all beer snake all the time.
All beer snake all the time.
Yep.
Andy, any other thoughts here? Past the hour, we'll wind down here in a second. Mariners losing this game, walking people bottom of the floor. I just can't handle this. Any other thoughts from UFL Week 6 before we transition on?
I mean, again, my biggest takeaway is you just continue to see the separation between these other teams. Birmingham, obviously, Battlehawks are probably in line to win the division, but it really depends on how much juice that Birmingham or that the Brahmas have down the stretch. And again, they face each other in week 10 at the end of the season. So that could end up being a pivotal matchup. Everyone needs to watch Battlehawks and Stallions. I mean, that is the game of the year. That's the one you circle on the calendar. And the only thing that's odd about it, though, looking at the schedule, if I double check here, it did appear that it's going to be in prime time. No, it's not. It's at 1 p.m. Pacific time. That's kind of a disservice on Saturday. I mean, I know there's NBA playoff games, and I know that's just how it is. But man, like you want that to be a prime time matchup, 4 p.m., 5 p.m. Pacific time on ABC or Fox. But maybe it's just because of the predicted times that there would be for these playoff games, for the NBA playoff games. It's kind of a shame because it's just such a ruckus matchup, and you want that so badly. So for me, I mean, that's really the one that I'll be watching with intended interest. And I'm curious to see if Battlehawks fans can travel.
Yeah, I had comments about that as well. I think they will. I think that's a fun atmosphere. If you can, they got that hotel right across the street. I mean, it's spendy, but you can stay right. I mean, you can stay right there. I know you can't. There's not a lot else to do in Birmingham, as we discovered, but they got a couple bars and the hotel and stuff across the street. I think they did it at one because that's right when my memorial starts that I have to film. So I think that they decided that let's do it right there. So Reed, oh my God, they just. Andy, we got two guys on. I can't handle this. I can't watch and podcast at the same time.
It's a long season, Reed. That's all I'm going to tell you.
Yeah, I know, but this is we got mound visits, everything going on. We'll wind this down. Like I said, like and subscribe. Adding subscribers, losing subscribers during the show. I'm sure I said something to annoy someone, but big interview coming up this week. Todd Mirko coming on. Like I said, former AFL team president, COO, wide ranging, like an hour long, talking about everything you'd want to hear, kind of a former, someone that's been involved in sports media and team building and ticket sales and local marketing and TV avid revenue, kind of like anything you would want to hear. We kind of cover it all. So we were going to go like 25 minutes and they're like, oh, it's 55 minutes. This has been a long time. And then, like I said, Kevin Kugler coming on from Fox Sports. So we're talking some actual football as well as business stuff. Andy, anything else from you before we get out of here?
No, Reed, thank you for being so patient and letting me on. Traffic or not, I want to be here.
Well, Andy, like I said, next time, just screen record one of the games, and I'll just stream it from your camera instead. We'll just upload the game, and yeah, Jacob, he's not like super into it right now, but he does give thoughts about that because obviously, like, and we talked off camera. I'm like, I understand, like, you're not like entrenched in that anymore, but he gives us 30,000-foot view on all of that stuff. So yeah, we talk relocation and everything, tons of stuff. So super excited. Fixing the UFL coming up Friday, 7 a.m. Pacific. So like and subscribe for that. Andy, glad you made it home. We'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.